It was in that place that the color purple was born. And I allowed that to be filmed so that it could reach many Afro-Americans who would be unlikely to pick up a book.
So we hear now from
I appreciate aging.
among black people sometimes it's not
And I'm surprised by it.
but she's a
Never thought I'd get to this old.
and she's
69 my next birthday.
unbelievable.
What I enjoy about being this old is how happy I am with the
When I was a little
smallest
girl, growing
things.
up in Jim Crow, Birmingham,
Never
Alabama,
allow someone else to be happy
segregated
for
city
you.
in the United States.
Any
My
happiness
parents
you
couldn't take
get,
me to a movie
you gotta
theater
make
or
it
a
yourself.
restaurant. But they made me believe that even though I couldn't have he founded his own church in
She is
Birmingham.
known
Dad
internationally
took
for
over
her
his class,
ongoing work
and he
to
started the
combat
first
all
start
forms of oppression in the United States and abroad.
My parents were
In
educated.
1969, she
Dad got
came
his
to national
master's
attention
education
after being
from school.
removed from her teaching position in the philosophy department at UCLA as a result of her social activism and her membership in the Communist Party, USA. In 1970, she was placed on the FBI 10 Most Wanted list. I present to you Angela Davis.
The first snap with mom. She has to take that to the storage room. The fitting
I
room
was
is a white
born
zone.
Angela Yvonne Davis, Birmingham, Alabama, January 26, 1944. The daughter of an automobile mechanic and a school teacher.
Now the clerk wanted her permission.
The area I grew up in became known as Dynamite Hill. All the African American homes that were bombed by the Ku Klux Klan.
Parents supported the civil rights movement.
I went to segregated schools up until the time my mother and I moved to New York and we settled in Greenwich Village.
My family legacy is proud of me.
1961, I returned to the United States after studying a year in Sorbonne, Paris.
My doctorate degree. In
I'm
1979,
sadly
I wrote
reminded
Jim
of the
Carter.
American civil rights struggle.
In 1980, I switched to
Four
support
girls
Ronald
were
Reagan
killed in
because I
the
felt
Baptist
that
church
Carter
street bombing.
administration badly mishandled foreign policy. In
I continued to
1989,
study philosophy
I
at
worked
the
for
University of
President
California
Bush.
under Herbert Marcuse.
While there, I got very close
I was
to
so
Bush.
taken with Marcuse, especially his idea that it was the duty of the individual to rebel against the system.
In 1989,
This inspired me to join the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, otherwise known as SNCC,
campaigned all across
and the Black Panther Party.
2000 presidential election.
The following year, I joined the American Communist Party.
Discipline, and a man of good judgment. And you
I
know what?
became
I'm
involved
proud.
in campaigning to improve prison conditions. Became particularly involved in the case of George Jackson and W.L. Nolan. These were two African American brothers who established a chapter of the Black Panther Party at Soledad Prison in California. And books. August 21st, 1971. George Jackson was gunned down in the San Quentin prison yard. They said he was carrying a 9mm automatic pistol, which he smuggled in and was trying to escape us. They said I smuggled it into him. They knew the love that George and I shared.
And so much of what
Loved
we're
each
getting
other's souls.
is private and personal thoughts. And
I went on the run.
know that,
The FBI put me on the America's Most Wanted list.
the personal writings of their character and put it into
What can I
their
say?
monologue. So what you're hearing are
What
their
you
words.
do.
All right.
I believe that
Author.
it's the responsibility of the individual to take advantage of any responsibility that's open to you.
See, they're well trained.
We went
Who was the eighth and last child of Georgia sharecroppers? I think I did a poem
1979.
7 or 8.
I continued to
I turned
study
from writing
and
to
lecture
find a
on
place
the
in
American
my own
consciousness.
solitude.
1979, I was
Express my
awarded the
thoughts,
Atlantic
ideas.
Peace Prize and an honorary professor
feel
at Moscow State University.
Fundamentally, I am a poet.
1980, I
That
became the
turned to
communist
writing novels.
vice presidential candidate.
When I was 8, I was blinded in one eye
by my brother.
I
One
do
of my
believe
brothers who shot me with a BB gun.
that is the responsibility of every
I
individual
graduated valedictorian from
Take
my high
advantage
school class and attended college
all
with scholarship.
opportunities that were made
I've had
available
to
to
work
you
hard
by those
to
who came
maintain
before.
a connection with my family. They never disappointed me. In the 60s,
Economy in the Graduate School of Business at Stanford. I present to you Condoleezza Rice.
Reflecting back, when I was a little girl, growing up in Jim Crow, Birmingham, Alabama, the most segregated city in the United States, my parents couldn't take me to a movie theater or take me to a restaurant, but they made me believe that even though I couldn't have a hamburger at a Woolworth's lunch counter, I could be president of the United States. One day, Daddy took me to visit the White House in Washington, D.C. And I said, Daddy, I'm barred out of there because of the color of my skin. But one day, I'll be in that house. 35 years later, in 2004, President George W. Bush appointed me as Secretary of State. During the confirmation process in the U.S. Senate, my opponent said all kinds of crazy things about me. One cartoon me as Bush's house Negro. House Negro? My grandfather left sharecropping to become a minister and founded his own church in Birmingham. My dad took over as pastor and founded the first Head Start Center in Birmingham in 1965. My parents were education evangelists. My dad received his master's degree in education. Mom taught school and took classes on and off for 20 years before she received her master's of arts in education. My parents taught me to be twice as good because to be well prepared is revered in white society. But they didn't play by Jim Crow rules. One day at a department store in Birmingham, Mom gave me a dress to try on. The clerk snapped at Mom. She has to take that to the storage room. The fitting room is for whites only. Now, Mom was calm, composed, elegantly dressed, but firm. She didn't back down. She told the clerk if I couldn't try the dress on, she wasn't going to buy the dress. Now, the clerk wanted her permission. So she ushered me quickly and quietly into the fitting room and nervously guarded the door in mortal fear for her job. My parents supported the civil rights movement, and they were very close friends with Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth, who was very close to Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. But for me, my family legacy propelled me forward, not the civil rights movement. I pursued international studies and focused on the Soviet Union and earned my doctorate degree. In 1979, I voted for Jimmy Carter as a Democrat. But I switched to the Republican Party in 1980 to support Ronald Reagan for president because I felt that the Carter administration badly mishandled foreign policy. In 1989, I had the opportunity to work for President George H.W. Bush. And while there, I got very close with the Bush family. And in the late 1990s, I met then Texas Governor George W. Bush, who was considering a presidential run. In 1999, I became his primary foreign policy tutor. And we campaigned all across the country with the Bush family in the presidential election of 2000. I believe George W. Bush is really smart, disciplined, and a man of good judgment. And I am proud to have served in his administration.
Condoleezza Rice. Foundation was one of the first blues singers. She started singing when she was 12 years old and has been called the mother of blues. She was known for her powerful and vocal abilities, energetic disposition, majestic phrasing, and a warning style for singing similar to folk tradition. I give you my thank you.
My doorbell rang this morning, didn't know which way to go. I said my bell rang this morning, you know, didn't know which way to go. Well, my rainy. Me and Pa set off across the south, town to town, doing tent shows and cabarets. We was built as Ma and Pa raided. Well, in one of these towns, this gal walked by the tent, singing and wailing about how her man done her wrong. Over and over. Ooh, but it had that dirty back road feel. I mean, this was some real country blues. I started working it into my songs and the people just went crazy. Now by that time we hooked on with the rabbit foot minstrels. We was billed as mind fire raining, assassinators of the blues. We had been on the road about 12 years when Pa and me separated. But by that time I was a star in my own right. I had my own band, a chorus line, and a carnival show. I was one of the first women out there singing the blues. I had a blues for everything. Moonshine blues, runaway blues, sleep talking blues, Bo Weevil blues. Ain't nobody in the world could holler, hey, Bo Weevil, like me. I would walk out on stage and some of them folks would say I look countrified. They would laugh at me. If you don't like my ocean, don't fish in my sea. Stay out of my valley and let my mountains be. If my rainy didn't get you, you couldn't get God. I had a couple of hits by the 1930s. Women singing the blues wasn't popular anymore. They wanted to hear the men sing them. Pair my records up and let me go. They said my down-home material wasn't so popular anymore. I had to face that truth. But I'll tell you this. All that time I was paying attention to the business part of my rainy. And I squirreled away enough savings to live quite comfortably. So I went on home back to Georgia. I bought myself 2 theaters and I ran them until I died in 1939. I had to hit something. C.C. Ride, y'all remember that? C.C. Rider. Oh, see what you done. Lord, Lord, Lord. C.C. Rider. See what you done. Made me love you. And now your gal's done come. Gonna buy me a pistol just as long as I am tall. Yeah, Lord, Lord, Lord. Gonna shoot my man and catch the cannonball. Yeah, y'all. I was sick. But I had blues for that. Laying in my bed with my head turned to the wall. Yes, I was laying in my bed with my head turned to the wall, trying to count these blues so I could sing them all.